Hello. Hello?
Hello.
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 Hi, everybody.
This is not as many people as I would have anticipated.
How many people do you normally have?
10 to 20. So
The
I
rescheduling could have been the confusing part.
it didn't show up right on my calendar, and I must admit I kind of randomly picked a Zoom meeting. So I wonder, let me write an email. You both are from New York Academy? You're
Just me.
just you, okay.
I'm from Kentucky,
Oh, you're from Kentucky. Hi.
although I used
will
to live in New York.
I will write Donna and admin.
Happy to give my presentation to you both, though probably not be as meaningful and impactful.
Yeah. No, it is right that we're in the one with the speaker, so that wins, right?
Okay.
This is the only one I got, so I'm gonna assume it's right.
I at least had written myself a note about what date the email with the link came through. So I just had to search through all the emails to find that.
Yeah.
Uh, while we're waiting, Chanel, I'm from Connecticut Academy of Science.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I will also text Donna.
While we're just chatting, the entire time I was in New York, I didn't know there was an Academy of Science in New York.
Really
Yeah, I just found that
interesting.
very odd. Oh, you have one. Wow.
Actually, they at least back in the 90s, I was quite a bit of proceedings publications that
Mhm.
I was, they did several conferences that I was a part of.
We've been around a long time.
Yep. All right. I've emailed Donna and the admin, and I've texted Donna. So let's see what happens. How's the weather in Kentucky?
It's been cold, but getting nicer. We actually had snow on Monday that stuck a little bit to the grass.
Wow.
There were some
Yeah,
freezing bridges, I guess. There were some accidents on the highways.
we had a bit of like really light flurries this morning, but nothing that would close to sticking.
I
Oh,
live
it
in
didn't last long.
I live in central Jersey and we had a few flurries yesterday, but nothing major.
It tends not to last long down here.
Yeah, I'm sure it's short-lived.
Big change from upstate New York.
Yeah, oh yeah. They got a lot of snow yesterday and the day before, I heard.
Actually, my assistant's from Chicago, and they got a lot of
Ooh.
snow last
Oh
week too.
yeah,
Yeah.
I heard they got tons.
Searching on Zoom and my emails is not very effective.
I've gotten no correspondence, so
Yeah, I mean, I got no reply from either of them. I'm trying to see if there's another meeting, and I'll go join that one and leave you guys here and just see if that works, but I can't find anything else.
I got one for today, 12 o'clock. And I got it on the 29th of October.
On the 29th. Okay, I'm getting there. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, October talk rescheduled. Click here
I
to
think mine
join.
was from November 3rd. At least that was the note I made
Okay.
myself, and that's where I found the link.
I'm gonna, this is the reschedule. I'm gonna drop off and re-click this one and see what happens.
Okay.
All right, I think I can find the one I was on, so I'll come back either way.
So do you guys mainly draw from the city or from the whole state? I'm just curious about why I never actually heard that you existed the entire time I was there.
So city, state, global, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
We've always been more global, versus some of the other, state academies. And yeah, interesting that you never heard of us when you were here. No convenings publication. We have a very old publication too. Are you a scientist by training or?
Um, I was teaching physics
Oh, yeah,
in a community college
yeah.
room, so Southern Tier area. But we were close to Cornell and Ithaca College and SUNY
Yeah.
Binghamton and all those. And I mean, I was in a couple of things, but I just never picked up on an Academy of Science.
I think probably at the time, we weren't doing as much across the state as we do now.
Okay.
Whereas those institutions are partners now. I think at the time, not so much. So if you
Okay.
were in the city, you probably would have,
Yeah.
in the city, in the science community, probably would have heard of us or
Meeting.
been to a meeting. Yeah.
Looks like he's still texting or something.
Mhm.
We gained somebody.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello. Apologies for being late.
Hi.
That's okay. I think we have a small group.
Yeah. We're playing around with different times and so I guess we're finding this isn't a wonderful time. So, but we can get to know each other. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
We
So,
were
and I'm
going to do that anyway.
perfect. I'm gonna log in and check and see who all else is registered too, Donna.
okay.
Maybe send some little reminder.
So I'm, excuse me, I'm Donna Girardi. I'm the president of the National Association of Academies of Science, and I'm in Washington State. I was until a year ago, I was the executive director of the Washington State Academy of Sciences, which is an academy that was designed, created 20 years ago to be like the national academies for Washington State. So we have 480 or so members who are the state's leading scientists and engineers. And we exist actually to advise state policymakers. So we've done a lot of work in that area. But today my hat is with NAAS. So Jeff, have you introduced yourself? You're on mute.
Yep.
Sorry, that's because I joined back in. I briefly introduced myself, but I'll go in more detail. So I'm Jeff Warzak. I am the executive director of the Connecticut Academy of Science. And just like Washington State, we were created to be modeled after the national academies. So we have also about 450 of the top scientists in Connecticut who we then try to activate into assisting the state in evidence-based policymaking.
Okay. And Marilyn?
Hi, I'm Marilyn Akins. I am from the Kentucky Academy of Science. Yay, Amanda, she's at another meeting or she would be here too.
Yes.
I'm vice president this year, and I don't know how many members we have. I'm sorry. We have a bunch, but we do have a very active education engagement committee and a pretty active policy committee who's actually meeting in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes here. So we just and we're trying to make many more connections with high school teachers and things like that to help them out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Remind me how long Kentucky has been around. You've been around quite a while, right?
Longer than I've been here.
Yeah, okay. It's on it's many decades versus.
Yes.
But, okay. Okay. And Chanel.
So I'm Chanel Martinez. I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations and Project Development here at the Academy. I've worked at the Academy over a decade in a variety of different roles. I started in our corporate relations and business development and moved into some program management and our policy work. That's where my background is. It's in international development and policy. And now I oversee all of our operational and back office teams, which help support the day-to-day operations of the organization. And I've landed in just the right spot. I love operations versus some of the other places that I was in. The New York Academy of Sciences was founded in 1817, so we just had our 207th annual meeting last week. And we have about 15,000 members, and most of them they come from a variety of different places. We have young students that are around the 13 to 18 range. They mostly are in our high school research programs. We have early career postdoc scientists. Those come from our university partners. And then we have a number of scientists at varying parts in their career that are members either through their employer, their corporate employer, through their institution, or their paid individual members. So yeah, happy to answer questions, tell you more. Most people know us from our scientific convenings, and we host about 50 a year. Most of the population knows us for our journal, the Annals of the New York Academy of Sciences, one of the oldest scientific journals in the United States.
I would love to learn more about whatever you want to tell us about the New York Academy of Sciences. To me, it's always been, you've always been there. You've always been like the largest, most diverse portfolio of programs that I was aware of at the state level, and you still are. And so I'd like to know more about the diversity of things you do, and then also, are you working in scientists advising policy at all? And I ask that because NAAS is working, has a grant from the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation to be helping states with strategic planning and also understanding more the science policy advising space. And so, so those are the things I'd like to know about.
Yeah, let me take the last piece first, because that's an area that I used to work in and is close to my heart. So we used to have a pretty robust science policy area. We called it policy consulting services. And we would do projects mostly. So we would partner with governments, but also corporations or institutions, and we would help them with specific projects that mainly focused on economic investment for scientific output or innovation. So, how you can, for example, build a culture of innovation by supporting your universities or things like that. We had some very extensive projects with New York State, mostly in the climate area. So we partnered with, at the time it was an organization called NYSTAR and NYSERDA. Now just NYSERDA is left. And we created roadmaps of how, what clean tech investments would be beneficial for the state if we wanted to evolve our economy and bring more economic and innovation activity happening to the upstate area. So kind of along the Albany corridor and even further. We've also worked internationally on similar projects. So we work with specific countries. Our first one was in Mexico City, and we've gone to Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Russia, you name it. We've kind of been in a handful of places. And then we've also worked with corporations that have come to us and said, we're looking to expand a pipeline of students, for example, or something like that into our corporation. How do you suggest we do that? And we have a model for approaching those projects that are, pretty consistent, but involves, some scoping exercises, stakeholder interviews, research and reports. I think the reason why people would come to us mostly is because we have a very large network of scientists that are kind of in our orbit. And that mostly comes from our scientific conferences and convenings. Each of our conferences and convenings has a scientific advisory board or a scientific advisory committee that helps us formulate the scientific content of those events. And so, that group is in our orbit all the time, and therefore we can get access to, a number of diverse stakeholders when doing these projects.
When you do those projects, the convenings, for example, is there a particular audience you have in mind, both to be in the audience, but also is there a product that comes out of them that then has an audience as well?
Yeah, so depending on the convening, it could have a highly technical audience because the area is very niche. Or it could have a more interdisciplinary audience. So for example, one of our most popular conferences now is of AI and healthcare. There's an intersection between several different groups for that event, and it's very popular. We've run it, this is our 3rd year running it this year. We also have one of our oldest meetings that we run is cancer immunotherapy. That has a more technical niche audience, still broad, but there's very specific individuals that are involved in that. So when we formulate the agenda, depending on what the scientific topic we're talking about, the audience might change. We do have a number of members of the public who are not members of our organization that attend the conferences, and that they're all open to the public. They have registration fees attached to them. And then in terms of post-event materials, there's usually like blog posts and things like that are more easily digestible by a lay audience. So they could speak to the technical audience, but also someone who's just interested in the field could read them on our website, kind of see what's going on.
That's wow.
We do also record a number of our conferences, and they're available on demand. Some are available free of charge, and some you need to pay a fee to access the on demand.
Are you finding that are your events mostly in person or?
Yes.
Oh, is it okay? All right.
Yeah, they're all mostly in person now. We're back mostly to in person. Some of our professional development programming does do solely online. And we have some that operate hybrid with a live virtual, and all the rest of the others are recording for on demand later.
Do you have a location? Specific? So you actually have a building or something, don't you?
So we did have a building on 63rd Street. That was a long time ago. And then we moved to 7 World Trade Center, where we were at for many, many years. And then in 2020, we let that space go. And now we are at 115 Broadway, very, very close to 7 World Trade Center. We have a convening space here that can accommodate about 100 people. Our convening space at 7 World Trade was very large. We could have over 300 people in that auditorium.
Wow.
So we have some of our smaller meetings here on site, and then we do our larger meetings at different locations around the city. So we partner with universities. We also partner with other, scientific spaces to host those larger events.
Wow.
We usually also always do poster sessions at our events. So we engage, kind of the student community that way. Sometimes we have
what level of students do you?
PhD students.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
PhD postdoc. Early career researchers, call them.
Okay. I don't want to take up all the time. Jeff, do you have any questions?
She answered one, which was you guys convene mostly around New York City, so that was certainly one. I know we've used your, again, as I mentioned earlier, the proceedings for meetings that you didn't necessarily convene yourselves, but we used the proceedings for the meeting records in the 90s. So back to the membership. I mean, you have people that are can pay to join, right?
Correct. Yes, it's open to anybody. So anybody, we're a democratic organization, so anybody can pay to join to be a member, student or professional.
All right. And I guess tell us a little bit how you're organized. How do you organize the members, or how you try to I guess what would make you distinctive from a subject matter specialty professional society? Maybe that's a good way to phrase my question.
Yes, good question. So our member, as I said, anyone can be a member. So we have members who are, highly technical scientists, and we also have members who just are science enthusiasts. And then we have members who are quite young. So, 14, 15, 16-year-olds, all the way up to the other end, who have been members for a very long time. We organize our members based on membership level. So you are a professional member, meaning, you've come in at the professional level rate. That could just mean that you're not a student and you're not an emeritus member, so not a retired member. And then we have our student members. That's really it, those two categories. And then we have as I said, an emeritus, which is a silent level for our retired members who want to stay connected to the organization. The group of 15,000 that we have is organized into those categories. So either they're students or they're professionals. And some of them are coming from like paid members, individuals. Some of them are coming from their corporate, like their institutions. So corporate funders that we have are allocated membership slots and they can distribute those to their employees. So they're coming in that way. Or they're coming from their institutions. So we have relationships with 20 universities, mostly in the New York tri-state area, but also around the world, who pay for members for their students and faculty to take part in our events.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You said tri-state area, so you have members from, presuming, New Jersey and Connecticut? Is that the
Yes.
tri-state area?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
We have members all over the world, really.
And that's because of the services that the offerings you have and the services you provide.
Correct. Yes.
Very interesting. I'm wondering, did you have a presentation that you wanted to share with us, or did you just walk through it, or sort of jump down here?
I didn't have any slides. I had kind of a talk that I was going to give, though we're touching on a lot of the main points with these questions that I was going to cover. I was going to talk a little bit about, who we are, our history of partnerships. The Academy was really formed based on partnerships and how that's kind of carried out. And then just go into some of the programs that we have and what partnerships are like. I would say that, conferences, we touched on membership. Yes, our education programs are very robust at the Academy. We run in-person education programming in local schools in the 5 boroughs, also a little bit New Jersey. And this is where we take a scientist and put them in a classroom. So we partner with the school, we partner with the teacher, we bring a scientist mentor in, and they work on projects with the students and the teacher for a whole academic year. We also run an international education program, which looks for students coming from around the world to form interdisciplinary international teams, and they work on innovation challenges together. So they create solutions to different challenges. And that is for 13 to 18-year-olds. And they also work with a mentor, which the mentors are normally also coming from our network. Heavily our university students are doing that.
A question about that, the student piece. Do those students compete in, say, ISEF or where there's more team-oriented competition, or US Robotics or any of these other, Olympiad, whatever?
Yeah, we are independent from that, but we do see a lot of crossover between the students that excel in our education programs and those type of national competitions. Yes.
Okay.
And how do you do the matchmaking, identifying the need that the teacher has and finding the right professional to fill that need?
We have a whole team of people that do that matchmaking. So usually what, the teacher comes in, says, I'm working at this, school in Queens. we work a lot with under-resourced schools, so they don't typically have access to the type of science curriculum or supplies that we're able to provide them. Certainly not a scientist that can come into their classroom. So, you know, I want to participate in this program. I would like a scientist to come into my classroom, and we provide the curriculum for the projects as well as the supplies for the projects. So we provide the scientists, the curriculum, and the supplies. And we match the mentor pool that we have with the teacher pool. Hopefully it's the right fit, and then they work together on those projects for a year.
And part
It's
of
a
why
really
I
amazing program. On our website, we have a lot of information about it. It's, unique to us in a lot of ways, and just has made a great impact in the 5 boroughs.
Yeah, part of why I asked is recently we were asked to help connect an independent high school researcher with a scientist, and I actually had a lot of trouble doing that and want to get a little bit more organized. But in that
Yeah.
case, and this kind of follows Donna's question too, right? Those are kids who will participate in one of the local science fairs or symposiums, and so they're doing independent research, and so it's a little bit more of a focused mentor-mentee relationship.
Yes, we get a lot of requests like that too. You know, how do I get a scientist's feedback on this project that I'm working on? That's very, I mean, there's a variety of different things you need to consider when you're matching a mentor to a student. You know, is that mentor background check, for example, you know, all of those different things. So it's setting up a program like that is very impactful, takes some time to put the building blocks in place. But we've certainly also, you know, made those types of connections for some of the students in our class, students in our programs, for mentors that are interested in working with students in a more one-on-one. We also get requests too frequently. I don't know if this happens to you all, but you know, students that want to go into various labs and, you know, research labs at different universities. That's also quite tricky, but some of the universities in the area do offer opportunities like that for students to come in a structured way, and we let the university handle that piece of it for us.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting, because we have examples in our states where, when I say our states, I'm members of NAAS,
Yeah,
where either the state academies don't have the capacity to support students, or the students are asking academies to do things that they just can't do.
mhm.
And you have a system where already set up where all of these really critical pieces like background checks and vetting and training, presumably for the
Yes,
science,
training, yes.
all of that has already been done. Whereas in some places, it hasn't been done, nor are there the resources to do that. So
Yeah.
that leads up to the question of, is New York Academy of Sciences in a position to help out students from other states that aren't part of that tri-state area? If there's, you know, because, you know, what we find sometimes is these kids are so tenacious. They want to be doing, you know, high quality work, and they're not going to give up. So we'd like to be able to, which they shouldn't, but we also want to create an easier pathway for them to have the experiences that they want to have at that level.
Yeah, I would say that our junior academy program is the one that operates virtually, where the students form teams and they get to work with a mentor. That is the easiest pathway for them to get involved in a program like this without having to burden some of the other state academies with all of the different, you know, pieces that you need to set something like that up. And you know, we bring 3,000 students into that program every year. There's 3,000 in the program right now. So it's quite large. So, you know, to say that I should probably send you information or show you where to get information about that program, because it's as simple as, if your student is interested, they fill out a form and then they, you know, are able to join the program, and we kind of guide them through it. We background check the mentor, you know, we take care of all those other pieces, and they will get opportunity to get connected to a real scientist or a scientist mentor that can help them on some of these, help them on projects that they're working on for the challenges specifically, but also expose them to other people, other students outside of their community that are like-minded and also interested in some
Right.
areas.
Right. Well, that's one of the beauties of our AGES program, the NAS AGES program, where these kids who are like that get to
Mhm.
spend 4 days together with other kids who are like them in that regard. And it's so powerful. And I think, does New York send students as part of your program to AGES? Or,
We do not that I know of, no.
yeah, and for a lot of these kids, it's the first time that they've had the opportunity to interact with other students who share their passion for
Yeah.
independent pursuits in science. And ours isn't really a competition at all. It's more of a celebration of their accomplishment. So it's really, really powerful. We'd love to maybe talk to you about how to include New York in that, if it would be of interest.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so God, there's so many ways we could veer off here, but there are a couple of other parts of your program that you wanted to talk about.
Let's see, I'm just scanning through here. Our education programs, our conferences we have talked about, mentorship, yes. The other thing is that, in terms of collaboration, one of our, I would say our keystone programs, which is actually winding down now, but that ran for over a decade, is our program in nutrition science. And this is actually one of our best examples of how we brought people together to actually change policy at the global level. So one of the programs that we were working on is micronutrient supplementation, and the results of some of the working groups that we had put together resulted in the WHO actually making a shift in some of their guidelines around micronutrients recently. And there's been some papers published in the Annals, our journal, about this specifically. So it was a long collaboration and partnership, decade long, that resulted in this change, but a huge global impact in terms of the WHO acknowledging that you need certain micronutrients in a woman and young person's diet in order for them to have maximum benefit in the future.
So that's really interesting. Has anyone done a history of those kinds of activities? The reason I ask is I'm wondering if, I mean, you have this really well-established annals that's
Mhm.
been forever, probably preceding most, if not all, of the journals that are out there today, right?
Yeah, it's yes, one of the oldest.
And it's still considered prestigious to
Yes.
be published in the annals. And so well, where should I go with that? So many questions there, but how do you maintain the quality of that and get to the kind of editorial leadership to maintain that quality?
I don't know if I can try to answer this one. The annals I'm not as familiar with, but we do have, the editor of the annals, Doug Bratton. He's been with the Academy a very long time. He's also our Academy historian, so he knows a ton about our history and has overseen the annals for many years. Him and his editorial team, he and his editorial team, they're the ones that are, screening what goes into the journal. And the journal is published by Wiley too. So,
okay, all right.
so when you go to our site, let's say you wanted to purchase a copy or download a copy, you're not doing that directly from us. That's going over to Wiley.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So where I was going to go with that was it might be interesting to talk to that editor at some point, or someone on the editorial team, just
Absolutely. Sure.
a little bit of a nerd about that stuff. But just wonder if the micronutrients issue, was that maybe an issue that the research community itself wasn't really embracing, but there were members of the Academy who thought, gosh, this is such a hugely paradigm shifting, as we used to say, issue. We have to focus some attention on it. Let's do it through the New York Academy. So that kind of.
Yes. So our nutrition program, the head of our nutrition program, who has since left, had an expertise in micronutrients, especially how they affect, women and children, women of childbearing age, and children in very low resource settings around the world. So, he and his team were able to put together, a coalition of funders, Gates, et cetera, who were interested in this topic, and they were the ones pushing forward this agenda. It was the Gates specifically funded work that led to the WHO change, because they were interested in having us lead that working group, that, bringing together the stakeholders that were rallying for that.
Okay, and was it not only pulling together the stakeholders, but was it also funding research too?
Yes. So there was in-country research that was done over a long period of time. And the results of that, the data from those studies and the results of that research is what is published in the annals, along with the background on the change.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Are they doing something similar with cancer immunotherapy? Is that along the same lines of the level of effort?
No, that is more of an annual convening. I mean, there is, I'm sure, there have been papers published, I believe, from that, but not along these lines.
Okay. Right.
And how about your funding model?
Yeah.
I mean, how much is based on dues going out for grant support, publication, income, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I would say that membership dues are a small portion of our funding model. Most of the funding is corporations, foundations, the publication. I would say that makes up the bulk of it, individual donations.
Okay.
How large is your staff?
About 52 people.
Wow. It's a lot.
Yeah, we are. I mean, I think for a nonprofit, we're like mid-sized, I would say. We used to be more. We used to be closer to 80, like 75, 80 people.
Mhm. Okay. Marilyn, do you have any questions?
Most of them have been answered. I was interested in the funding model and the kind of work they're doing in the schools in particular, because that's sort of a pet peeve of mine. No, that's where I like to focus on, getting them getting people interested in encouraging them in science
Yeah.
much earlier than like a postdoc or something, or, a graduate.
The 13, so the programs that we're running in schools can be as young as middle school. So we have, fourth graders in some of those programs. The international virtual program that we run is just 13 to 18. And that's, because it's easier to work international teams with a mentor in that age. But we have done work in younger grades too, though that middle school range is usually the sweet spot for that. And they do some amazing, I mean, the projects they do, and there's some great information on our website about that program if you're interested in learning more.
Can you send a bunch of links with the recording or something, just so we
Yeah.
can find things? That would be awesome. Thank you.
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing so much. I mean, our member academies around the country do a lot of these things, but not all of them. I mean, I don't know of any other academy that does all of the things that you're doing. You're just like I think that we can learn a lot from you. And there's also some interesting models in some spaces you're not really working in yet, that where you could learn from us. And it was one of the reasons for having these academy chats, is we call them like learning and sharing with each other. Sorry we didn't have more people on today. I think we had a lot of people register, a lot more register, but I think the time changed.
Yes, I'm sorry about that.
Well, no, things happen, but would love to maybe even have you come back at another time and take some deeper dive into some of these issues with more people. Would love to have you join as a member. Our dues are not very high, and I think we have a lot to learn from you. And I think there might actually be I mean, just one of the areas, this international virtual team collaborations, is super interesting. I think there might be some interest by some of our academies in that.
Great, yeah, I'm happy to, I will look up the membership dues and see how much they are and inquire about that. Happy to speak to more people and share links around for everyone to, and answer any questions and connect you to other people within the organization. Our education team is excellent. I'm sure would be happy to share, best practices and some of the nitty-gritty of how the program started. The academy's always had a pretty robust education program. Our junior academy ran mostly in person, like scientists to mentor in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. And then kind of tapered off a little bit. And in the 2000s is when we started this education program again. And they really built it from the ground up, just a couple classrooms in 1 or 2 boroughs. And now it's really expanded across the city. And there is a very interesting way that they approach it, and some very consistent funders too, that are really committed to the program and the results of the program.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I I actually could see a series of chats with us on, program specific kind of chats.
Yeah.
Uh, Hallie, if you could just take notice of this, a lot of the states especially the states that have had academies in place for 100 or more years, have a long tradition of a publishing component to their academies.
Mhm.
The newer academies don't really have that. So it's kind of legacy publishing, and it'd be interesting to talk about how that has changed over time and what it looks like now.
Mhm.
Absolutely sure that your annals didn't start out being a imprint under Wiley, but
Oh, no, certainly not.
so how did that transition happen, and what is happening with other academies too? Be interesting to take a look at that.
That would be interesting, Donna, because I know we're looking at our bulletin, which kind of started out more as a real bulletin. We're 50 years old, and started out more as a real bulletin, and now is really more just of a newsletterish kind of thing. And even then, probably not being very impactful. So it might be an interesting topic.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've had a number of publications too. The Annals is the one that's around now, but Doug knows much about our publishing history and could go through, what the different permutations of that were like and kind of when they came and left and
Mhm.
what's left of them.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna spitball here for a second, but I'm thinking about, our interest, especially Jeff's state, California, Washington, Virginia. These are examples of states where, and to some extent Kentucky, I think it's moving more in this direction, where there's an interest or a focus of the academy in advising state policymakers.
Yeah.
And having a way of pulling together the best available science in a particular area that can inform state policymakers in particular, having that as a particular or specific audience. There's nothing that I know of that is specifically focused on that, although it might be interesting to think about how states could pull together information on like PFAS to advise state policymakers, or some other chemical, forever chemical, or energy transition, or whatever it is. There's a whole bunch of issues like that that have a huge implication for state level policy making, but that needs to be informed by the best available science. So how do we publish that information?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an area that we could learn from others, especially if there's an interest in banding together. I know that we want to get more involved in state policy. So, kind of bring that back into what we're doing. So I'd be, more than happy to have that conversation, engage in those conversations.
That's great. That's great, because we would love to have you as a member, because there's a growing, growing number of academies who are very, very interested in that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good.
Okay. Any other questions? Jeff, Hallie?
I don't think so.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So again, I'm sorry that I was late, but I'm sure glad I
No
showed
worries.
up. So I learned a lot.
Good. Well, let's stay in touch and I will send some links around. And any questions, I'm here, let me know.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right,
Yeah,
thank
you.
you.
Have a
Thank you,
wonderful day.
Snail.
Bye.
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 Bye.